What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over this upcoming week, some expectations, where things might be going, go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So starting off with macro data, we don't really have that much coming out on Monday, so it is going to be more of a technical driven day, and hopefully a lot of that positive momentum that was starting to build on Friday will roll over into Monday. There was some abnormal transactions that did occur Friday after hours, which is kind of interesting because normally I always do my SoFi videos after the bell, but I actually decided to do it kind of midway through Friday. But there was some abnormal transactions that did occur after hours Friday. So when it comes down to it, these are some of the transactions that did occur on the dark pool. So 6.5, 4.7. So nothing really crazy for that. But looking on the secondary market, this is where you see a overwhelming amount of buying after hours. And conveniently, this is where SoFi really moved higher during that same time period. So big one on that exchange, 141.8 million. And then the second being 23.6. So big money definitely was getting into SoFi. We are nearing the end of Q4, so there could be some rebalancing. So don't be surprised if we see some abnormal activity throughout the week. Again, as institutions will be rebalancing. So something again to keep in mind, but nonetheless, Monday, there's not really that much going on. Tuesday, we have GDP, and that for the most part is that big data point for the week. Current forecast is 3.2, previous is 3.8. Market is going to take that for face value. What I mean by that is that's not a major concern to the Feds. So that won't really diminish or increase the likelihood of a cut for the upcoming January meeting. So the market's actually going to take this for actually how it does come out. So hopefully it does come in a little bit better than the forecast of 3.2. So again, that's going to be coming out before the bell. Aside from that though, on Wednesday, we do have initial jobless claims. Current forecast for that is 226. And then market is going to be closing at 1 o'clock on the Wednesday. And then the 25th, the market is closed. So Merry Christmas to all that celebrate. And then the 26th, we don't really have that much. So anticipate some low volume on Friday, as well as most likely on the Wednesday as well. Aside from that, there's no real companies kind of putting out their earnings, nothing coming out associated to SoFi that's planned at least. But then again, from what we can see online, there's a lot of big things coming out. And I know I already brought this up, but that recent podcast that Anthony participated in, clearly there's a massive amount of planned stuff coming for crypto. And shout out to SoFi Insider who kind of caught this. So it looks like on the App Store, it looks like they changed their name from SoFi Bank Invest and Loans to SoFi Bank Invest and Crypto. So definitely they are going all in on crypto. So that's definitely a good thing in my opinion. But again, I think just crypto for right now is just a very big extension of people's appetite for risk. So we really need some more secure data on a macro standpoint to really increase people's appetite for risk again. And then that way crypto will be more popular, similar to what happened in the summer. As of right now, I feel like some people are very skeptical on crypto, but nonetheless, 2026 should be a fairly big year for SoFi. Going into this upcoming week, 9.21% of the free float's being shorted, works out to be 114 million shares overall being shorted. So still see some signs of naked shorting. So right now there's about 112 million shares being on loan, 114 being shorted. So you should never have that scenario play out. Never have more shares being shorted than on loan. That's definitely some sketchy stuff happening. Plus, cost to borrow minimum is negative. So that's always been a sketchy thing that happens with SoFi. In case you are new to the channel, that ultimately means that there is a broker or several brokers paying people to short SoFi. So definitely some interesting stuff. I think all in all, SoFi has actually done very well in 2025, despite the manipulation. But moving on from here, from a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be kind of between that $27.50 to $28 range. By the end of this upcoming Friday. Bears are anticipating for it to be kind of between that $26 and $27 range. So definitely a lot more upside, but it looks like options is signaling that it might be a more of a tame type of week. So for those of you that want to maybe sell some covered calls or sell some puts, you might get some good premiums, but you never know. SoFi could easily just break out just with one good PR. And honestly, that might be a logical thing to do, because this whole week, typically people aren't really paying attention. Companies kind of go radio silent. So if SoFi kind of breaks the mold and puts out some crypto news, then you'll have AI and algos and just institutions really focusing on whoever's going to be putting out news. So that could potentially help SoFi. But aside from that, it looks like big money is already getting into SoFi. So a lot of interesting stuff that did occur after hours on Friday, which normally is kind of quiet. But with it at 27.24, it is smack dab in the middle between this R1 and the pivot. So 27.10 and 26.48 is going to be support levels. So for those of you that want a dollar cost average swing trade, kind of just watch for that. Then 27.72 and 28.11 is going to be the next strong target / resistance points. So again, if you're wanting to possibly sell some covered calls, or whatever else, just kind of watch for a lot of those points. Aside from that though, going into this upcoming week, there is a 19.9% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut for the upcoming January 28th meeting. Unless some Fed speaker kind of comes out and says something dramatic, I don't really see GDP or any other data point really moving this. Initial jobs claims on Wednesday might move it maybe like 1 or 2%, but nothing significant. So it might be a little bit more of a quieter week all in all, which I think is kind of good and justified. Aside from that though, on the actual chart, because of Friday's pretty good push higher, it was able to successfully get above that 10 and also the 100-day moving average. So SoFi was kind of struggling with that. You can see on the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday all bounced and rejected off of that 100-day moving average. Luckily enough, Friday just kind of pushed higher. And for those of you that kind of watch my SoFi videos, you'd know that I kind of brought up a very common scenario that has been happening. And every Thursday and Friday has sucked. It's been horrific, except for this last week. So we actually had Thursday and Friday being green. So I don't know if this is a complete 180 in the broader market, maybe a sign that we are finally ready to move higher. But nonetheless, on Friday was able to successfully get above some key points. Next strong point is going to be that 50-day moving average, and that's sitting at 28.13. Historically, every time SoFi has gone above that, we see a nice about like 10-15% run. So don't be surprised if we somehow are able to get above that this week to see a continued push higher. Aside from that though, as long as it can hold that 10 and 100-day moving average this week, then most likely you'll be seeing kind of higher highs. Nonetheless, no new analyst ratings. From the flow, you can see from Friday that there was a huge amount of algorithmic trading. So AI has been really pushing a lot of stocks higher and everything. So yeah, I think all in all, it's going to be a pretty good week for SoFi. As far as my prediction on where I see things going, realistically, I do feel that we will be closing between this R2 and this R1. Most likely we'll probably touch this R3 sometime throughout the week, but I do feel that we will settle between that 28.11 and 27.72. So let me know your general thoughts on SoFi. What's your expectations for this week? Do you think that we're going to have a full-blown Santa rally? A lot of people kind of think that's going to happen and we're going to go to $30 this week, which would be absolutely epic. Or do you think that we're going to be in more of consolidation mode? What's your kind of general thoughts on SoFi? Hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend thus far. One final thing, if you're looking for some on-point buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, pop over to my stacked account. Just made this a couple of weeks back. Currently I have 101 members under this tier, and I lowered this tier from $55 down to $20 just for this weekend alone. So definitely take advantage, sign up while you can. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.